Sense.
Kicks 105.5, a great day to you. I'm Sean Knight. Joining me in studio is Mike Barrett.
I love how I get the bell just for showing up.
Well, you know
I
what?
love it. It's like getting credit for putting your name on the top of the test.
But I'll tell you this, and this is the truth, is that you are one of the most consistent people who come here and understand the value of what I do. And so I'm always so happy to see you. A lot of people, it's the radio guy. I'm not going to show up for my interview, or, oh, I forgot my interview was last week, or, I got to call and chase people all the time. It's not worth it.
No, I'm just here.
Unless you're actually doing something related to bettering your own business, which is why you do this anyway, you are always constantly here, and I appreciate that.
Yeah. It's fun. I enjoy it. Except
Aside
for when you
from
turn
that-
my mic off in mid-sentence.
Sorry. Aside from...
I really... Go ahead.
From all the pleasantries, just as a BS thing. No, I truly am appreciative of you, and I'll tell you what happened. As you know, 2 years ago, my daughter got into a car accident.
Yes.
You had said to me you have a very good friend named Dan McCabe, who is attorney at law.
I think if
McCabe.
Dan was listening, he'd say, well, I don't know if I'm Mike's really good friend.
No. He's a sweet guy.
He is a very
really
nice guy. I really enjoy him, yeah.
And he is one of those people who is like a super person, but he's in like that Clark Kent mode all the time, so you could never tell that he really is a Superman. But so my daughter finally, after all said and done, after a very horrific accident, she ended up getting $18,000 yesterday. And so that was the end of that. Now, $18,000 is nice, but as you know, anybody who's ever gotten some money, $18,000 is like... it instantly will.
Well, you had
my
expenses.
tax return was $7,000, and I swear I spent that $7,000 at Walmart the following day. So, all the
Shopping
expenses.
with a canoe.
Yeah, no kidding. We hit up Shaw's first.
row your boat down the dairy aisle.
But you weren't actually my agent at that time.
No, you were with some kind of reptile.
Yes, I was with a reptile,
Yeah.
and unfortunately, we had to sue the reptile because the other person didn't have insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Do you run into people having to sue their own insurance company frequently?
Not often.
Really?
Not often. It's more going after the other company.
Okay.
So your case, and I'm only speaking from my experience, not as an industry statistic or anything like that. But in the years that I've done it, no, I've not often had to see people go after their own insurance company, because typically those limits are there and it's pretty justifiable. Like, yep, we're just this is the hardship that you had. This is pretty justified. This is what we're gonna do. The company you're with, I was very surprised at how tight to the reins they held and how reluctant they were to give you anything.
And they fight. And
Yeah.
we literally, and as we were thanking Adler and McCabe, Dan McCabe actually had to go and represent us because they try to choke you with all these little details, all this paperwork, all this redundancy, because they don't really want to pay you money.
Right. And actually, that's the interesting part, and that is the commonality that's out there.
And
a lot
I think
of people,
that's why people hate insurance people like yourself.
Right.
Because, yes, you're covering me and you're making sure that we're well, but at the same time, when that time comes that I need you, I'm not saying you, but I'm saying
No, I get it.
insurance
I get what you're
agents,
saying. Yeah.
It seems like it's your job to make sure that you don't just start throwing away, the entire dowry.
Right.
Let me open up the vault and just start chucking cash at you.
Well, there's a couple of key terms as you look at insurance policies and the contracts, and lesser of is pretty common. They're always going to pay the lesser of. So the goal here is for the insurance companies to get it out of it as cheaply as possible, but as fairly as possible as well. And you look and you'll see those personal injury lawyer commercials on television, and you get this perception, much like you have with insurance companies,
that you're going to get $1 million if somebody
But you have this
you.
perception that maybe they're slimy,
Yeah.
or maybe they're just out to get their own money. No, there is a course where you should, there are times where you need to step up and have somebody, because you have a full-time job, you have a life to live.
Yeah.
You don't know insurance to a point where you can dedicate so much time to trying to get a fair settlement. That's why you hire personal injury attorney, and sometimes they are very much needed. I think they're a benefit, and some people say, well, that's why insurance is so expensive. Not necessarily. I mean, there are times where I've seen people lawyer up for the most incredibly crazy reasons.
Do you think
like
that
your
the 80s
pinky
and 90s
got stubbed in the accident?
Yeah.
You're fine.
Do you think the 80s and 90s with people doing frivolous lawsuits really drove insurance deductibles to be what they are, to your premiums, your rate, everything. It seems like, back when I was younger, when I was 16 and had a car, the cash was not like, oh, and insurance, like all my money. It was minimal, but people were suing people.
No, I'll tell you, I mean, I am, 43? My wife had to correct me because I thought I was 42, which is not a good sign.
My birthday's in 2 months, and I was like, oh, yeah, I'm 40. And she's like, you're going to be 48. And I was like, no way.
I don't like that.
I'm old.
I don't like the fact that I'm that old, but I don't like the fact that my wife had to tell me how old I am, and I forgot. But neither here nor there. I'm 43, and when I was 16, here's the thing. When I started working at the insurance agency, I got to go through some of the old paperwork, and I got to see some of my policies when I was 16.
$15 a month.
I will tell you, no, it was not cheap. It was not cheap.
Really?
It was not. I would say that when it sounds like more money, but think about what the value of the dollar was then compared to today. I put it more along the inflation versus insurance companies just raising rates incredibly so. I mean, they try to keep it in check, but I think I was paying the average teenager now with a liability-only vehicle on their own is paying anywhere between $1,400 to $1,700 a year for basic liability. I was paying $1,100.
Okay, so you say a teenager
back when headlights were optional on vehicles.
But the only way a teenager can be insuring that person's self is if they don't live at home, right? Because if you
they
live
own
at
their
home,
own vehicles registered to them, they can have their own policy. But it's not always worth it because you're losing some advantages. You're losing mom and dad's creditworthiness. You're losing mom and dad's having their own vehicle, so you're losing multi-car benefits.
Well, but I would say, wouldn't I still have to pay if my son lived in the house, had his own car, paid his own insurance, but I'd still have to pay for my vehicles because...
Depending on the company... Really? Some companies want you to list them and will appropriately charge. Some companies say, look, if they're insured elsewhere...
Who cares? Yeah, right.
So that there's no need for double dipping. And essentially, that's what that is. The example I give is moms and dads who have divorced. So now there's different households, and the kids are growing up. And do mom and dad both put them on their policies? Absolutely not, because they're double dipping at that point.
Yeah, you put that right on mom.
So I always, I always say,
thanks for the divorce, dear.
You got the house, you take the kid on your insurance too. No, but seriously, what I tell people all the time is, look, quote both. Because if the kids are 50-50 between the households, quote both. See which one's going to be the cheaper option. So
does it matter where you are? Like if I'm in Franklin County and my wife is in Chittenden County, we're divorced parents. If my son lives with her, is it cheaper in a particular county? What if she's in New Hampshire?
So at that point, now you're starting to go beyond. I'm talking like if you're both pretty local and it's a high likelihood that the child is 50-50
that was like
between the house.
Pop quiz.
Yeah.
You got your name right on the SAT. Let's move forward with one question.
If you really want to play that way, but now if you're talking...
Would it be cheaper if one was in New Hampshire, one was in Vermont?
Not necessarily. And of course, if you have a Vermont licensed child, and now you're trying to toss him on a New Hampshire policy, see, now you're just playing games, buddy.
They're going to say you have 6 weeks because
it's
you
interesting.
have to change that over.
It could be a flag to the insurance company more than anything. Going, well, okay, why does this child have a Vermont license? And that's when sometimes underwriters will come to us and go, where does this child live? Oh, with dad in Franklin County. Where's Franklin County in New Hampshire? Oh, there isn't one, but there's one in Vermont. Get them on the Vermont policy.
Yeah, okay.
So it can happen. Yeah.
Kicks 105.5 is so happy to have every Wednesday one of the best people that we have here as far as an interviewee. It is Mike Barrett from Barrett Insurance
I thought
Agency.
somebody came later.
Nope. Nope. I'm talking about you. You're all right.
Thank you, sir.
You're a good egg. As you've been hearing a lot about eggs lately. Because,
I hear something's coming up this week. Yeah.
It is. We've got the Easter egg hunt as we have at the church, which you have been a part of with your young son. And 1 year, I think you actually brought the dog, too, didn't you?
I might have.
I know you brought your wife once.
Yeah.
If you'd like to join us again, I'd love to see you there, brother.
All right. What time?
We actually do like we've done in the past. We broadcast 10 to noon, and then at noon we do each individual category so that nobody gets trampled on.
Yeah.
So
if you want to increase attendance, you should do like a 40+ one.
You got 10 seconds to say your shtick.
All right. Portland Street in St. Johnsbury is where you'll find us. 748-5224, thebarrettagency.com. We're on Google, Facebook, and YouTube, all Barrett Insurance Agency.
Good to see you, buddy.
Thank you.